I would just like the mayor's office to respond to that suggestion. Dwight, do you have a comment about that?
Very briefly, Commissioner, I can only say two things. One, this is the subject of an audit by Mr. Walls, the final version of which has not yet been released. And two, I would say to you that I started with this government July 16th of 1984. I've seen a lot of things come and go in those 23 years, but I've never actually seen a political climate as hostile and factionalized as 2007. As a consequence, I have retained an attorney to represent my interests in this matter, represented by Mr. Bruce Poston, and on Mr. Poston's advice, I cannot speak to this any further.
But I'll get right back to you, Commissioner Ballard.
I have a question for John Owens. John, did we not pass some sort of resolution or amendment that was sort of a forgiveness that dated back a long time in regards to car allowances and stuff?
The ordinance that was amended was with regard to the $300 limit on vehicle allowances for elected officials. All right. That ordinance also provides that you can have one or the other. You can have a travel allowance, auto allowance, or you can have a county vehicle. So it's one or the other. You can't have both. That's still good law in Knox County.
Commissioner Moore.
Okay, just to address that, Commissioner Ballard, what we passed was if someone, I think the state statute was that you could receive up to $300 a month for a car allowance, and some people had been getting more than that for years, and we went back and corrected that. But what we're dealing with here is totally different. It's people receiving taxpayer money to provide them for a car allowance while they're out doing work for the taxpayers. But what they ended up getting was a car allowance, the taxpayer funded, and also a county-owned vehicle that supplies them gas, tune-ups, tires, brakes, and anything else that's associated with that vehicle. Now, I don't need an audit to come back and tell me that if you're getting both of them, that's wrong. And we know that these individuals were getting both because the paychecks reflect that. So on this issue, I think we ought to try to recoup some of the restitution for the taxpayers in Knox County government. We owe it to the citizens to make sure we run this government efficiently and effectively, and that we're accountable and we're responsible to the people who sent us down here to do this job. So I think without question that this right here should move forward.
Commissioner Loophole.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This kind of follow-up to Mr. Ballard's thing to the law department, indicating that our current ordinance prohibits collecting both. So I understand that but to address the issue that Commissioner Moore has put on the floor, is this one that the commission requests they do this voluntarily, or is this a demand one that they do? And if it's a demand or even it's a request, what's, in your opinion, the status of this for the commission to do that? What's the meaning of it? I mean, I can agree in principle because we just adopted the principle. So, and I voted for that you couldn't collect both. So, can we go back from that time and
what if they refuse to pay?
Is this a voluntary one, or is this a one that we are demanding now?
I can answer that, I think, in my mind. If they refuse to pay, that we direct the law director to file suit in court.
Well, then my question to the law director is is this, from your opinion as a law director, this is a legal question, not one whether I think that's correct or incorrect, okay, but whether, in fact, we could sustain that as a legislative body.
You're asking me to answer that right now without the benefit of the audit. The travel audit has been ongoing for some 3 months. I believe it's been completed, but it's not been released yet. There's still a discussion ongoing, and so right now I would suggest that this resolution is premature because we have still an unsettled and unfinished matter, and that being the county audit. I wouldn't wish to do anything to take any form of legal action without first having the audit in hand.
So if this were to pass, you would say that, your opinion, that you would not pursue it until you have more information?
Correct. That's right.
Commissioner Case, please apply something.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not sure I agree or disagree with any of this. I think this is something that could end up being adjudicated. I fear that passing something like this, if it does ever get to the court system, might have an effect one way or the other. So you can comment on that or not. You can't get your crystal ball out and say what's going to happen.
No, you can't. And like I say, the audit has been ongoing for some time. There are going to be opinions, I believe, expressed in the audit. There's a response that is due from the mayor and the mayor's office to the audit, and we need to see what those responses are. That audit has been completed, as I understand it. There's still a few discussions ongoing. It's been completed with the assistance of the state comptroller. So I would put a lot of faith in such an audit, given that review. But we don't have it in hand yet, and so I believe now it's premature to. I think it would be premature to do anything until we receive that.
I also have a question for the law director.
Okay, Mr. Harmon.
And that question has to deal with the fact that, as Commissioner Moore just described it, if this request is ignored or denied, that he would request legal action seeking, in effect, back payment. You might be able to do it for a current fiscal year, but I don't know how you go back. Isn't that something like a post hoc law that would
Ex post facto, I believe.
Ex post facto law that courts would frown upon?
Courts do frown on ex post facto laws. However, under the right circumstance, there's an argument to be made that it could be valid. I think that somewhat misses the point, though. If you're talking about what the law was, if the law was that and still is that, you can't have both. You can't have a travel allowance and a car.
But if something
then you haven't changed the law. You're just asking that the law be enforced, which we fully intend to do. But first and foremost, we're going to get the audit.
But in the past, it was the process in the law, and therefore changing it, the law from that point forward, but going back and asking for the money when the law was under a different state would be an ex post facto and would be a problem.
It could be, but like I say, there are arguments to be made both ways for that. Generally, it's correct to say that you could not enforce an ex post facto law against a person. Okay, you got to know what the law is before it's going to be enforced against you. But here, I think we have a very well-established code section 2-2, the Knox County Code, which provides that you cannot do both. You cannot have both a travel allowance and a car, and that's for the elected official. It's been in place since 1990.
That's for elected officials, did you
Yes,
say?
it is.
Not appointed officials?
Elected officials.
Commissioner Moore.
Thank you. This is a question to Mr. Owens. Mr. Owens, with the audit still ongoing, I understand that. But we know without question through payroll records that these individuals received an auto allowance, and we know that they owned they had assigned a county-owned vehicle to them. So what could the audit tell us that we don't know on this one issue?
I don't know. I haven't seen it yet.
Well, we know they did it. The question is now, what I feel like somebody snookered me because I voted on a budget. In the line item, it said auto allowance and had the dollar amount. And I trusted